Welcome to Cat Has Questions, curiosity, stories, and the strange corners of everyday life. Hello, I'm your host, Kat. So today's episode is going to be a little bit different than kind of the usual format. So since today is going to be talking about an ongoing investigation, it's going to be a lot more facts, a lot less speculating. When a case explodes online, facts and opinion start to blur. The loudest voices aren't always the most accurate. So today, we're pressing pause. No theories, no speculation, no commentary, just the facts. Just what has been confirmed through official records and credible reporting. This is what we know about the Nancy Guthrie case. Nancy Ellen Guthrie is an 84-year-old woman who was reported missing from her home in the Catalina Foothills area of Tucson, Arizona in early 2026. According to public records and official reporting, Nancy Guthrie was born Nancy Ellen Long on January 27, 1942, in Fort Wright, Kentucky, in the U.S. She later moved to Arizona with her family in the early 1970s and had lived in the Tucson area for more than 5 decades prior to her disappearance. She was married to Charles Guthrie until his death in 1988. He died while mining on an exploration trip in Mexico. Nancy Guthrie is the mother of 3 children, Savannah, Annie, and Cameron Guthrie. Savannah Guthrie is a nationally recognized journalist and co-host of NBC's Today Show. At the time of her disappearance, Guthrie was described in official reports as independent and mentally aware, though she relied on daily medication and had limited mobility. The Catalina Foothills community, where her residence is located, is an area northeast of Tucson, Arizona. Law enforcement agencies involved in the case include the Pima County Sheriff's Department and the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI. Officials treating the case have highlighted that her disappearance did not resemble a typical voluntary missing person scenario, given her age, medication needs, and lack of indication that she left on her own. This episode will refer to these documented facts when we're discussing the events that followed. So the last confirmed day we can place Nancy Guthrie with certainty is Saturday, January 31st, 2026. According to Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos, at 5:32 p.m., Nancy Guthrie took an Uber to her daughter's home for dinner, Annie. Investigators later spoke with the Uber driver, confirming that trip as part of the timeline. Later that night, the next confirmed point comes from family reporting and home entry data. Sheriff Nanos stated that at approximately 9:48, Nancy Guthrie was dropped back off at her home by family. Investigators also referenced her home's garage activity as a time-stamped marker of that return. The garage door opened at about 9:48 p.m. and closed at about 9:50 p.m. CBS News, summarizing law enforcement statements, reported that her son-in-law was the one who drove her home, so Annie's husband, and waited until she was inside before leaving. From there, the timeline becomes important for what it doesn't contain. As of the public reporting and official statements available, 9:50 p.m. on January 31st is the last clear marker placing Nancy inside her home. That's the moment authorities have referenced as the point they assume she was home and going to bed, before anything unusual is detected later. So to summarize, the last confirmed movements, 5:32 p.m., Nancy Guthrie takes that Uber to her daughter's house for dinner. 9:48 p.m., she's dropped back off at home. And then her garage door opens and closes normally between 9:48 and 9:50 p.m. After that, no publicly confirmed sightings of her. And that's where the record stops, right before the case shifts from routine night at home to something is wrong. The next confirmed shift in the timeline occurs the following morning. On Sunday, February 1st, 2026, family members became concerned when Nancy did not respond to communication attempts. According to reporting from ABC News and CBS News, family members attempted to contact her for the morning after she returned home. When those calls went unanswered, a relative went to her residence to check on her. What they found prompted immediate concern. Law enforcement later confirmed that when family entered the home, Nancy was not inside. There were no public reports of her leaving voluntarily, and there were no confirmed indications she had planned to travel or spend the night elsewhere. Authorities have stated that given her age and medication needs, it was unusual for her to be unreachable. The Pima County Sheriff's Department was contacted that day, and a missing persons report was formally filed on February 1st. Sheriff Chris Nanos later stated in press briefings that investigators responded quickly and began treating the situation as suspicious based on early findings at the home. While specific forensic details were not fully released at that time, authorities confirmed publicly that the scene did not appear consistent with a voluntary departure. Law enforcement began canvassing the neighborhood, reviewing surveillance footage from surrounding homes, and collecting digital and physical evidence from inside the residence. The FBI was notified and later joined the investigation. So by the end of February 1st, the case had shifted from a routine welfare check to an active missing person investigation, which also started with the Pima County Department and then the FBI joined. If you're already listening to Cat Has Questions, that tells me something about you. You don't just accept the story. You tilt your head, squint, and open 17 Google tabs at 2 a.m. This is exactly the energy over at 3 Scheme Queens podcast. On 3 Scheme Queens, hosts Colleen, Kate, and Megan deep dive into scandals, internet rabbit holes, and the kind of stories where halfway through you're like, wait, that cannot be right. And then somehow it gets weirder. They connect the dots, follow the money, and question everything. If this curious, chaotic corkboard with red string energy is your vibe, check out 3 Scheme Queens podcast, with new episodes out every Tuesday wherever you listen. After Nancy was reported missing on February 1st, investigators began examining her home in the Catalina Foothills area of Tucson. According to statements from Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos, deputies responded to the residence and began processing the property for evidence. Law enforcement has publicly stated that the circumstances surrounding her disappearance were considered suspicious early in the investigation. However, officials have not released detailed forensic findings from inside the home. What has been confirmed is that investigators secured the residence, collected physical evidence, reviewed surveillance footage from the property and surrounding homes, conducted neighborhood canvassing, and interviewed family members and potential witnesses. Sheriff Nanos stated during a press briefing that certain investigative details were being withheld to protect the integrity of the case. Authorities have not publicly confirmed whether there were signs of forced entry, whether any weapons were involved, whether blood or signs of a struggle were present, and the exact condition of the interior of the home. The residence was treated as a potential crime scene and forensic teams were involved. The FBI later joined the investigation, assisting with evidence analysis and technical support. As of the latest official updates, specific forensic findings from inside the home have not been fully released to the public. There are no credible or confirmed reports from the Pima County Sheriff's Office, FBI, ABC, CBS, or any other major outlets stating that blood was found inside the home. I know we've all heard that, but that has not been officially announced, that there was forced entry, and that there were specific camera events inside the residence, or even that a violent struggle occurred, or that there was a scene there that looked like it occurred. No information like that has been released from an official source. So really, law enforcement has stated that the circumstances were suspicious, that the home was processed as a crime scene, that digital and actual forensics were collected, and that things were canvassed around the neighborhood. As investigators continued examining the home and surrounding area, law enforcement began reviewing surveillance footage from the property and nearby residences. According to public statements from Pima County Sheriff's Department, video evidence was collected early in the investigation. Sheriff Nanos later confirmed that investigators identified activity during the overnight hours between January 31st and February 1st that drew attention. Authorities stated that surveillance footage captured a vehicle in the area. During this time frame, investigators believe Nancy Guthrie disappeared. While law enforcement has not released the full footage publicly, officials have described the vehicle as suspicious and relevant to the investigation. Investigators also confirmed that they were working to identify the vehicle and determine who was operating it at that time. At one point during the investigation, the sheriff's office released limited descriptive information to the public, and requested assistance from anyone who may have seen unusual activity in the Catalina Foothills area during the overnight hours. The FBI, as I mentioned, later joined the case, assisted with digital analysis and review of this surveillance evidence. So, law enforcement has not publicly confirmed the identity of a suspect connected to the footage, whether the vehicle was directly involved in an abduction, whether multiple individuals were present, or whether the individual seen on video has been identified. Officials have emphasized that certain investigative details remain intentionally withheld to preserve the case. Public appeals have focused on encouraging residents to review home surveillance systems and report any unusual vehicles or activities seen through that window between January 31st and February 1st. And as of the most recent official public statements, law enforcement has not released a public list of individuals who have been formally ruled out as suspects. What has been publicly addressed, so about their family, law enforcement have stated in press briefings that Nancy Guthrie's family is cooperating fully with investigators. However, authorities have not issued a formal public statement saying specific individuals are cleared, quote unquote. In most active kidnapping investigations, agencies avoid publicly ruling people out unless necessary. So that's not like uncommon. There's been no named suspect. So authorities have released a physical description of the person seen on that surveillance footage and confirmed that the DNA recovered from gloves did not match anyone in the National CODIS database. But they have not publicly identified that person and have not said anyone specific has been excluded beyond database comparison. Law enforcement has not publicly named a suspect, announced an arrest, announced that a specific person has been cleared, or confirmed whether the suspect is known to the victim. As of the latest official statements from the Pima County Sheriff's Department and reporting by major news outlets, law enforcement has not publicly confirmed that a ransom demand was made in connection with Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. Authorities have also not announced any arrests related to the case. Sheriff Nanos has stated in press briefings that investigators are actively pursuing leads but have withheld specific investigative details, as I've mentioned. Officials have emphasized that certain information is being kept confidential on purpose so they don't compromise anything. There has been a lot of online discussions and unverified claims regarding possible ransom communications. However, as of the most recent official updates, those claims have not been confirmed through court filings, federal indictments, or formal press releases. As of today, while I'm recording, the investigation remains ongoing. There are no credible confirmed reports from FBI, Pima County Sheriff's Department, or any of the major news outlets stating that a verified ransom demand was issued, so that has not been confirmed. Imposter ransom text, that has not been confirmed either. Federal kidnapping charges have been filed, or that an arrest has been made in connection to her disappearance. So none of those things have actually officially been disclosed by a reputable source, even though there's so much information about this going around online and other places. So where does this case stand now? As of the most recent public updates, the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie remains an active investigation. The Pima County Sheriff's Department has continued to provide limited but structured updates through press briefings and official statements. Sheriff Nanos has publicly stated that the case is being treated as a criminal investigation, and during one briefing, he said investigators are actively pursuing leads and are committed to following every credible piece of information. Authorities have emphasized that certain details remain intentionally withheld to protect the integrity of the case. The FBI remains involved, and law enforcement has issued public appeals asking anyone with information, including surveillance footage or people who would have been around that area on those overnight hours of January 31st into February 1st, to come forward. In public statements, they have asked them to review their security footage for unfamiliar vehicles, unusual activity, or any movement during those hours. Officials have reiterated that they continue to work the case daily and are urging anyone with information to contact the Pima County Sheriff's Department or the FBI tip line. At this time, the public record includes only the facts previously outlined in this episode. Everything else remains either unconfirmed or outside the official record. But anyone with information related to her disappearance is asked to contact the Pima County Sheriff's Department. Tips can be submitted by calling Pima County Sheriff's Department at 520-724-4900. Information can also be submitted anonymously through 88 Crime, which operates in Pima County. In addition, the FBI has requested that tips be submitted through its online portal at tips.fbi.gov. Authorities have stated even really small details could be useful. And as of the most recent official updates, the case remains active. As of today, these are the confirmed facts in the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. I think it's easy for all of us to speculate and go down our own rabbit holes of the theories of what could have happened, especially based on misinformation, or maybe it's true information, but that has not been released publicly by investigators. I am not innocent of that as well. But until further information is released through official channels, the record ends here. Thanks for listening to Cat Has Questions. If you liked this episode, follow the show and share it with someone who loves a good spiral. See you next week.